You just heard Mannequin Pussy performing I Don't Know You for a live audience at World Cafe Live in Philadelphia, where the band is from. I'm Raina Duras. This is World Cafe, and Mannequin Pussy's Missy Dabice is my guest today. Missy, welcome to the World Cafe.
Hello, Raina. Thank you so much.
That song that we just heard, I Don't Know You, it's from Mannequin Pussy's new album, I Got Heaven. You changed the tuning to that song at the last minute when you were recording it. The rest of the band ran with it. I was wondering if you could talk first about your connection that you feel with your bandmates.
One of the most cosmic things that can happen in an artist's life is finding other people who are on that same sort of creative energy that they are. Like sometimes in that same way where you meet a person and you just like immediately just sync up to each other. I think that's kind of how it felt when we all met, both like individually and as a group, and as we like started playing together. Is that, you know, I can really remember the first time meeting Bear and meeting Kayleen and meeting Maxine, and how quickly meeting each other turned into making music together. They're, you know, my most precious relationships that I have in my life, you know, some of them.
Well, let's talk a bit about your time in the studio making this. You left Philly and went to LA to make this record with John Congleton, who actually just talked about him with Slater Kinney. They just made their record with him too. He's worked with basically everyone, The Killers, St. Vincent. His Wikipedia page is like
Wikipedia's
a
little
mile
excessive.
long.
Yeah, it's so long. I'm like, yes, John.
Why was that?
Get it.
Why was that the right place for you all to go? And why was that the right person for you to work with?
Well, you know, I think he was the right person for us to work with because he wanted to work with us. And I think that's like a little bit where, you know, you don't want to chase something that doesn't want you.
Sure.
Right? You want to like attract in things that are actually going to, you know, want to be part of your creative world. And Brett Gurewitz, who's the owner and founder of Epitaph Records, called me one day in 2022 and was just like, hey, Missy, so I was just, he's like, I'm not here to rush. I'm just curious, like, what are you thinking about this next record? What are you feeling about it? Because, like, we hadn't really talked about it. Like, we did the EP in 2021. We were kind of, like, bridging this time. Changes were happening for us as a group. And I was like, honestly, Brett, like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know. Like, you know, things aren't, like, really coming out right now. And we also were very busy touring at that time. And Brett was the one who was feeling as though he's like, this is the record I think you should leave Philadelphia for and come to Los Angeles and just like do a destination record. Don't go to your home every night when you're making a record. Stay all together as a group the entire time that you're in it so you can really absorb yourselves in it. And he had also called me because John had just called him, expressing that he was very interested in doing our next record with us.
Oh, cool.
So I think kind of just, it was a stars aligned thing where Brett got called by John and then Brett called me. And then, yeah, we met and I just immediately liked his energy. I love the way that he spoke about music and art as this, you know, this thing that is both like revered, but also not to be taken too seriously. But, and I really felt like an aligned sensibility between us.
What did not going home every night and spending all that uninterrupted time together do for you and the band?
I mean, it was definitely not without its like exhausting moments and feelings of just like overwhelming, just you're in it. You can't clock out. It's always on your mind that tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to keep kind of chipping away at the record. Because, you know, I think records, like many creative projects, just kind of start as that concrete block that then you just start digging into to start seeing then what the shape of it actually takes. And so, but for this one, being in LA was very special because, are you familiar with We Spa?
We Spa? No, I'm not. Tell me about it.
We Spa is a 24-hour Korean spa in Los Angeles. Ooh. And that also has like a restaurant on the third floor. And John keeps very strict 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. hours. So we would be in the studio from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then I'm a very like last minute person when it comes to lyrics. Like I'm still trying a lot of things out. I'm experimenting different ways to use my voice. And, you know, you're just like, again, you're just chipping. You're looking. And then from about 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. a bunch of nights, I would just go to We Spa and just kind of meditate there in the sauna. Like I was getting a per diem from Epitaph to be out there. I was like, I'm going to spend it at We Spa and just kind of sit and listen to the demos and kind of see how what that day in the studio kind of brought out. And then I finalized the lyrics for most of the songs there.
That sounds
And then I would go
so
back in
nice.
at 10 a.m. and then we would record.
I don't think, I've talked to a lot of artists. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about how they perfected the lyrics in a spa every night. That sounds wonderful. It sounds like a dream.
It sounds maybe excessively bougie, but I don't think I mean it that way. I think it's just like in a almost this like holistic quieting down
Of course,
for the day.
yeah.
You know, like when you're in the studio, you're in this headspace of there's the energies of all your collaborators around you. There's literal noise and sonic energy happening everywhere. And in order to write, I find that you really need to remove yourself and have some moments of silence that you can really get access to what is actually happening in your own head and have the space to bring that out.
I'm going to quickly reintroduce you. I'm talking to Missy from Mannequin Pussy today on World Cafe. A while before making this album, I know you got out of a long-term relationship, which is a big life shift. And when that happens, you suddenly have all of this time for yourself that maybe you didn't have before. How did that affect you creatively?
Well, I think the difference between how I looked at a relationship ending in my 20s versus now, I think in my 30s, was with a little bit more like grace and distance, where I think in my 20s, I was more likely to allow myself to be caught up immediately in another romantic entanglement. I think I definitely did the serial monogamy thing for a very long time in my life. And when that last relationship ended, I realized I had not been truly single for like a 10-year period, which seemed
It's a long
that's a huge amount of time. And I think, you know, there's so many outside influences to maybe why that is, or just kind of internally or astrologically or however you want to look at it. But I think there's an immense societal pressure, not just on women, but in everyone, to kind of like spend their lives in the pursuit of finding a partner. Mm-hmm. And I think for creative people, partnerships are sometimes this thing that distract you a bit from maybe the work that you should be doing. And it can be very difficult to find someone who understands where you're coming from with that sort of creative energy and that sense of, I cannot allow myself to be so entangled and so distracted. Like, I need to carve out time for myself. I need to know how to focus on what it is that I'm trying to create, how to focus on these relationships I have with like my bandmates and these other collaborations, and, you know, how to show up for everyone in a way that makes everyone feel valued and loved enough. And I think I needed time to just truly be alone so that I could have the space to chase the sounds that were in my head. But, you know, I don't think in any ways this album is a breakup record. I think it's very much a discovery of self, very much what happens in one's own solitude. And what happens in one's own solitude is that also you do fantasize and desire sometimes someone to be there.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about the next song we're going to hear, because it is a song that is a fantasy. It is a love song. It was inspired by a scene in the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where Buffy has to kill her romantic partner, Angel, who's a vampire, and she has to do it to save the world. And I tried watching this scene again. I hadn't seen it since high school, and it immediately made me weepy. Could you tell us about this song?
It's an immensely emotional scene, and the whole relationship is so toxic and tortured, and you know, exactly the perfect thing to be showing like young, impressionable teenagers as to what a love is supposed to be, which is all-consuming and obsessive. And, you know, it's, you know, I say that like with an air of, you know, I'm being facetious, that it's the perfect thing to show to people. But it was, Nothing Like It is a really interesting song to me because I first started writing it 6 years ago, playing those chords and just like singing the like, nothing like the shape of you, entering a room, I spin around you, like just in that sense of what kind of teenage love almost feels like, of just that the only thing you can see is that person, the only thing you can hear is that person, the only thing you want to do is just to invite that person to be as close to you as possible. But then what happens when it all falls apart? And it took me a really long time to figure out that song and how to not make it so simplistically pop. Like, you know, the first half of the song is a very simple pop song in a lot of ways, and then at the end it really just kind of there's a darkness and there's this edge to it that just kind of erupts, which I think is also like what happens when feelings of obsession like really erupt in you and kind of tear you out of your own life. But that song would have never been finished without the time and attention and care of Maxine, Bear, and Kayleen and myself all listening to it really intently and trying to find a more inspired way to do the song and to like really let it take shape in a new way.
Well, let's listen to it. This is Nothing Like. It's Mannequin Pussy performing live for the World Cafe. Performed live for the World Cafe, that was Nothing Like from Mannequin Pussy. Frontperson Missy Dabice is my guest on the show today. I'm Raina Duras. Mannequin Pussy's new album is called I Got Heaven. And as that title implies, religion did play a part in inspiring songs on this album. You grew up in the church. You were raised Christian. How has that shaped your perspective as a songwriter?
I think what's really interesting about my experiences with Christianity growing up is that I did not realize that the church in which I was growing up was such an alternative teaching to kind of like the pervasive mainstream ideas of Christianity. My parents, when my sister and I were very young, they stopped going to a Catholic church. And something that I heard my parents say later on is that they didn't want us to grow up feeling shame. How could there possibly be any benefit for their children growing up in the world if the first thing they learned was that they were impure or a sinner? That's a part of what the Catholic Church does teach, is that you are, that shame and sin are these intrinsic parts of what it means to be human. And the church that I grew up in going to was a Congregationalist church, which I think is a bit more like Unitarian leaning. So growing up in church, I did not ever hear the word sin or shame. I was part of youth group. There was a woman in our youth group who was a mentor, who she and her partner were a lesbian partner. It was a church that was very oriented upon service. That was the best way to kind of lead a Christian life, is to identify places in your community where you can involve yourself to help people who need it.
Okay. So, I mean, that sounds like a pretty positive.
Yeah,
place to be.
I did. Like, I had these like really positive experiences with Christianity. I think I had my own internal struggles with my maybe ideas of God and heaven and these more almost like existential topics. But the core at what that church did, and I think what churches can do, was really beautiful. And then when I left that community and I was kind of outside of the bubble in which I grew up, I very quickly realized that the type of Christianity that I grew up with was nothing like the majority of people around me. That was not the experiences that people had. That was not the way that on a mainstream level, on a political level, that Christianity was really used as a weapon to divide the masses. And that is the way that I see it. As with any tool in the wrong hands, it can really be something that is intentionally set out to divide and harm and to make people feel ashamed, because when people feel ashamed of themselves, they are easier to control. Mm-hmm. You know, it's when it's in I got heaven, and what if I was confident? Would you just hate me more? Mm-hmm. If I was just confident in who I am, would that make you so upset?
We're going to come back to this because we're going to hear you play I Got Heaven in a little bit. And I'm really excited for people to hear it because it's an incredible song. I want to stay for a bit in your youth. I want to talk about another formative experience that you had when you were 15. I know you were diagnosed with cancer. How does that affect you? You're 15, you're a teenager, you're just starting to figure out who you are. You're starting to rebel, you're starting to get into music. What does that do?
I smoked my first cigarette maybe a week after I got diagnosed with cancer.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general media perception, and I think how teenage illness is sometimes put into the world in like film, is that you're so sweet and you're innocent and you're just a teenager and a friend of mine put it really well once, which is, I hope I have a crush before I die. There's this idea that's still the one thing that you want to do is get a boyfriend.
Right.
You know, and
right.
I think that's like this pervasive narrative is somehow in our media and the way that we represent teenage illness. But for me, I went wild. I felt as though I wanted to experience everything I possibly could. And when you are a 15-year-old growing up in the suburbs, what is there really to experience?
Smoking cigarettes.
So, smoking a cigarette for the first time, smoking a clove cigarette for the first time, smoking pot for the first time, getting blackout drunk, like stealing street signs, you know, like stealing a book from Barnes & Noble, whatever it is. I think actually the way that teenagers respond to things is to like act out.
Sure.
Because they're desirous of experiences that make them feel like they're really living.
Yeah.
And often the experiences that we feel like are making us the most alive are also numbing us in a very serious way. So I really, like, I call it my blackout years because I think one, that's the way that your body responds to trauma, is that it starts to black it out. So you don't have the type of recall sometimes for specific moments, but there's certain experiences that really stand out to you and really just kind of like pierce through everything else. But I mean, it was horrifically lonely. I think already when you're 15 and you don't feel understood and you don't even understand yourself, and then this thing happens and you see everyone around you start to treat you differently. And you don't really you also don't have the emotional vocabulary to express how you're feeling yet because you're only 15 and you're
Yeah.
you're kind of just out the egg.
I think I saw you say somewhere that people would keep telling you, you're so strong.
Yeah.
And that was a weird thing to deal with, just to hear that over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's interesting the way that like I pulled that experience into our song Drunk 2 with the line, everyone says to me, Missy, you're so strong. What if I don't want to be? That experience came directly from my experience of being a kid with cancer, and not from, a breakup, but just like very often when we see someone in front of us struggling, and very often I think as adults when we see a child suffering, our response is to just tell them that they're strong because we need them to be strong because we don't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to a bit of Drunk 2 right now. Here's Mannequin Pussy. It's World Cafe. That was Mannequin Pussy on World Cafe with Drunk 2. I'm Raina Duras. I'm here with Missy from Mannequin Pussy. It took you a while to learn how to play guitar. You said that you felt like you got a late start because you didn't start playing until you were 23. Some people listening might say, oh, 23, that's not so old. But I can remember hanging out with like band guys when I was 23, and I can't play guitar. And the idea of me picking up a guitar felt like it would very intimidating. How did you actually get started?
I think when I realized just how much it was something I wanted to learn, I think I was 23 and I had kind of space in my life for the first time to spend my nights like trying to learn something, because I wasn't in I wasn't in high school anymore. I wasn't in college anymore. I all of a sudden I was working full time, and I was around all these people at this period in my life who were in bands and were very creative, but all were people who had just started playing. And so it was really inspiring to me to be around people who weren't prodigies or virtuosos, which is, I think when you think about playing music, it is this really intimidating thing because it seems like there's this really high bar of excellence and talent that you have to just start with. But you forget what actually goes into learning something is very often you fail for a long time, and you fail publicly for a long time, and you just you have to believe that the time you put into it is really only going to grow, and you're going to see that skill set develop, and it'll do you good by just chasing something that you want. And when I was 16, I did really want an electric guitar so much, and my parents got me like the Fender starter set, and I took a few lessons with a neighbor of mine, Chris Robeson, who lived down the street, but from I think a handful, maybe like 3 or 4, and at the first lesson we went to, like I had written a song. I was like, oh, I wrote a song. This is the melody. Will you just help me find the chords? Just wanting so much to just, I think, identifying that music was an avenue towards a cathartic release.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I was searching for.
That's okay. So that is interesting because I think I've heard you say that you realized when you were a teenager that music could be something that you escape into, or it could be a way to hold a mirror up to the world. When you started Mannequin Pussy, what did you want your music to do?
I think I was diving into myself, especially in like very early on. I was just so unbelievably angry, and I was so deeply depressed of like very long depressive episodes that I just did not know how to crawl out of. And I think for a very long time, I just tried to ignore things that had happened in my life. I just, again, like the way that trauma responds in your body is you just kind of shut it out and pretend as though it's not happening. And that was the way I walked through the world for a very long time. And then it was like almost like one day I woke up and it all caught up to me. Like everything I tried to ignore emotionally in my life, everything I tried to shut down just overtook me. And I had no chance but to like really start to feel it. And I just wanted a place to scream. And something I say a lot at our shows is that society very much frowns upon just public screaming or just screaming in general. That's why in like a lot of movies, there'll be that scene where the main character's in their car and they're just behind the wheel screaming alone in their car. It's like there's not that many places in which we have to just indulge in that primal scream, which actually does make you feel lighter after you do it. And so I think Mannequin Pussy really started as this cathartic performance art where I could just be on stage exorcising all this rage and anger and screaming as loudly as I possibly could. And then eventually that turned into, writing songs and crafts, but like, and really, indulging in the craft side of it and the excitement of what it means to grow as a musician and to learn more about your craft and how to collaborate with people and all, as it grows and grows and grows and you learn more. But yeah, those early days was just like pick up a guitar and just scream.
Mannequin Pussy has been a band for over a decade now. And in the last few years, it seems like it's picked up speed in a big way. And you and I think, are about the same age, mid to late 30s-ish. Which is maybe not the age people think, oh, this is when you break out with your rock band. But what do you think are the upsides of having that much life experience at this point in your career?
I mean, maturity is a wonderful thing to access. I think experience is a wonderful thing to access. I think also, I think for so long in your youth, you search externally for validation. You're seeking out maybe the nice things that people are saying about you. You're extremely affected by the negative things that people are saying about you. You're looking for someone to just validate the things that you already feel about yourself. But something truly changes in you when you enter your 30s, and I think especially about the mid-30s point, where if you've done the work and you've gone on that that healing journey that only you and yourself can do, you stop searching for external validation because you just feel validated in your own skin and you feel validated for exactly who you are. You've learned to be kinder and more patient and more understanding of the people around you. Like I say all the time, like I am not a lone wolf creator. Like I'm a collaborator. I see the absolute possibility that the ideas you have can be made all the more exciting and all the greater by inviting other people into the process. And I think that something I did say maybe a little bit more recently is that I think as you grow, you have this like less narcissistic view of the world where you aren't the world, you're just a part of the world. And I think that takes some time to develop in your life. But I think the 30s conversation is an interesting one because to me, from my perspective, every single other industry that exists in the world, most people do not find success until their late 30s, 40s, 50s. Every other industry, because it takes that much time and devotion and practice to start to see fruits of your labor, to start to really understand what it is that you're working on and to just simply get better at your craft to a place where it feels right that people are kind of tapped into it and connecting to it in a way. And I think the arts are a really interesting place where we expect greatness from people at 21 and then expect nothing from them after the age of 25. And it's just very interesting that the arts are like almost this exception to it. But that's not the way that I see it at all. I think we all operate, and I think all the artists I know, we all operate with the understanding that our best work is always ahead of us. And so there's really no expiration on what it is that you're or the possibility of what you'll create.
I have never heard anyone put it like that before, like to put it in the context of other professions
Yeah.
and other careers.
Yeah.
I'm speaking with Missy Dabice of Mannequin Pussy today. The new album from Mannequin Pussy is called I Got Heaven. It's World Cafe. So far, we've heard you perform 2 songs that are...
Can I say something else?
Sure.
To anyone listening?
Absolutely.
If you are in your 20s, let's all be very aware that there is an immense pressure that somehow society has put on all of us to have your entire life figured out between the ages of 18 and 21. And it is a completely unreasonable expectation. And it is the reason why so many people in their 20s are horrifically depressed and feel lost, because they feel as though they are already supposed to have figured it out. But there is so much to experience and to understand and to grow with, and to like make mistakes you're going to learn from, to come into your own as an artist, to come into yourself and to understand and accept and love yourself. And like the fact that we put this pressure on people that they're supposed to be successful by the age of 25 is so unreasonable, and I think actually does tremendous harm to people's self-esteem and to their self-worth. And if we reframed the context of the world in which we live as you are just continuing to grow, there's not an expiration on the possibility of your success,
Yeah.
I think people would be able to have a lot more grace and understanding for themselves and where they're at that current moment in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wasted a lot of time being so upset at myself that I don't know, I was just...
You hadn't done it yet.
Yeah, that I just hadn't found my people, or I hadn't found my person, or
Yeah.
I wasn't doing the things I
You're
really
not living
thought.
your life yet. You're still trying to find it.
Yeah.
That's like,
Exactly.
you're living it all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Every day you're living it. So I just, the pressure, I'd really like to change the narrative around the way that young people think that they ought to be going through the world.
We're going to get back to some music. So far, we've heard you perform 2 songs that I guess you could say are a bit more on the poppy side. The next one, the title track, is not. And it kind of it ties into what we were talking about earlier about growing up in church. Before we hear I Got Heaven, is there anything that you'd like to tell us about this song?
No.
All right, you just have to listen. Here we go. It's I Got Heaven, performed live for the World Cafe. This is Mannequin Pussy.
Should
I love that song, Mannequin Pussy, performing their song, I Got Heaven, live for the World Cafe. It's the title track from their new album. I'm Raina Duras, speaking with Missy Dabice from Mannequin Pussy today. Before this interview, you said something to my producer, Kim. You said, I don't usually swear this much in songs. In these live performances, we don't hear you swear. You do some sighs, you do some various grunts or whatever it is to get the point across. It can be tricky to swear or use graphic language in lyrics without them kind of sticking out, but I think you do a really good job of it. How did you think about working with language in the songs on this album?
I think every time you approach a record, there's this moment before you start working on it, especially from a lyrical standpoint, where you're like, oh my God, there's so many blank spaces that are to be filled. And something I really try to do with each song is really let the instrumental inform what the tone is and what the theme is. And so I'm immensely intentional in every single word that I say in every single song, all across this record, because you don't really get a chance to go back. Like once that's on record, like the record exists forever. And so I want to make sure that I'm being as thoughtful with my language and as true with my language as I possibly can be. And so when I use language that needs to be censored out, or when I'm using like obscenities, it acts as an exclamation point to what I'm trying to say. That it's driving the point home that I'd like you to pay attention to this, because it's important for you to understand it in the context of it. And I'm never trying to be obscene for the sake of being obscene. I'm never trying to be almost like argumentative for the sake of being argumentative. I'm just saying what it is that needs to be said.
Yeah.
And just letting it lie like that. And, but I'm also like, I'm not going to play dumb that I don't understand why certain people would be offended by the things that I say. It's just that I don't care that they're offended. I chose to say it and I stand by it.
Aside from the vocals on stage, it's a very physical performance that you're doing up there. You took ballet for years, and I think that's a really interesting contrast. How do you use that education and that experience in ballet fronting a rock band?
I think there's such a line that goes between dance as a performance art and rock and roll. Like there's an invisible thread there that many of us do see. Because ballet and dance performance is so much about how you use your body to further an emotional story, and how you use your body in the search of storytelling. And again, allowing a classical music composition to inform the emotion. So you have your instrumental in a ballet piece that informs what it is that the audience is going to be feeling, and then you match that feeling with the way that you use your body. And so to me, there's always been a marriage and a union and a harmony in the movement of the body and with sound. Like they are just intrinsically linked to me as art forms. And so when I'm on stage and I get to go unleash and I get to take off my guitar and I get to use my body in these ways, I feel like I am almost the exclamation mark.
Right.
Again, where I am getting to further these points. I'm getting to further the rage. I'm getting to, almost like mime, in a sense, what it is that I was feeling when the song was written, and getting to use my body in this way that just furthers the expression.
It reminds me kind of what you're saying about how the music will inform the lyrics themselves. It's sort of a similar... The music really is the thing that, like, carries all of that stuff underneath, like the undergirding of the performance in the song.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm speaking with Missy Dabice on World Cafe from Mannequin Pussy. There are two things before we start to close up here that I want to ask you about. Both of them are very close to my heart. The first one still has to do with live performance. It's something you said in an interview a few years ago, that Weird Al Yankovic was one of the best live shows you've ever seen. One of my favorite artists in the world. What did you see in that show that stuck with you as a performer yourself?
Oh, I love Weird Al. I love him so much. I think he's just he is someone who is not only such a brilliant musician, And so funny in the way that he combines that he's obviously so inspired by the songs that he chooses to parody. But in seeing him live, I felt so respected as a fan because I could see just how much thought and energy and time and attention went into creating his live show. Nearly every single song had a costume change. There were like skits that played in between each one. He inhabits a different character so fully for each song as well that it was just one of the most vibrant and different live live performances I've ever seen.
Yeah. And I guess, like, so for you, after you watched that show, and then it was time for you to do your next show, what were you thinking about?
Approaching a live performance as basically like an act of communion where we are gathering together as a community, as like people who all are in search of this cathartic experience. I want the audience to feel the respect and the awe that we have for them. You know, like we are still absolutely in awe every time we come out on stage, and now we're performing to hundreds or thousands of people when we perform, and it's not lost on us that it is such a privilege to be able to do that, and that people have set aside hours of their day, have went on to purchase tickets to invest themselves in their time and their money to be in this space with us. And I want them to feel that absolute admiration and respect that we have for them in the same way that I felt it when I saw Weird Al perform. And it really like lit off a light bulb, because I've also seen, on the flip side of that, I've seen lots of performances where I felt like the artists didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
That they were bored to be there, that they were almost bored by their own music. And I think also for when I saw Weird Al, it was a time period where it felt very cool not to care. It felt like there was this really pervasive general feeling in music where the coolest thing you could do was be a guy on stage with a guitar who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. And if you look like you don't want to be there, why would your audience want to be there?
Yeah, great point.
And it's the most exciting thing in the world for us as Mannequin Pussy that we get to perform these songs that we've labored over and have created and love so much. And, you know, we treat that meeting of audience and band as a very sacred place.
I'm going to transition now in a way that I can't believe I'm actually doing, to go from Weird Al into talking about a video game. I know that you're someone who loves video games, and you've been playing a game that I have been obsessed with for months called Baldur's Gate. And for folks who don't know what Baldur's Gate is, it's basically like a Dungeons and Dragons adventuring video game. I think that the character that you build in a game like that says a lot about a person, and I'm just curious what your Baldur's Gate character is like.
I really went full freak with it, and I have to say I haven't played Baldur's Gate as much as I would like because it's been a little glitchy on my computer. But I spent a lot of time building my character. I went very elven, I think with like very maybe green skin. I look really hot. Yeah, I feel like I made a character that was like ready to mingle in the Baldur's Gate world. Like, you know, she's been working on herself.
Yeah.
She wants to get out there, show everyone what she's got.
Do you remember what class they were?
A mage or the
yeah, like a wizard.
Yeah, I was a wizard mage.
Very nice.
I'm very, and anytime that there's an opportunity to be a wizard or a mage in a game, I'm like, yep, that's the one.
Why?
I think spells are very cool. I think I also think that anytime you can like shoot fireballs from your hand, that's pretty much the coolest thing that you could do. I'm a little bit of I have a pyro fascination. There's been multiple music videos where I've been like, and what if we set something on fire here? Like in the Control music video where like I set an entire bed on fire. Yeah, I don't know. I have a fascination for destruction, but only when things need to be destroyed.
I love it.
And so in the video game context, it's like it's your opponent. You have to destroy them. And having a little bit of distance, I'm not so into the close contact battle. I'd rather just kind of
to shoot from really far away, shoot a fireball.
Yeah.
I feel you. I am talking to Missy Dabice of Mannequin Pussy. This is World Cafe. We're going to hear one more song from the new album live. It is called Loud Bark. And this performance is the first time that you played this song live in front of an audience, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you get nervous playing a new song for the first time live? Because I feel like your music, it feels like you're not nervous at all. But do you get nervous?
I felt nervous before this performance. Yeah. And yeah, I don't usually get nervous just because like once again, there's this kind of self-assured quality when you've put so much work into something and you've rehearsed it and you feel ready for it. But the first time you play a song to people who have never heard it before is actually something that you don't experience very often now as a musician, where it's you're working on something in secret and then you reveal the secret and then people have the experience to pour themselves into it and then they know it by the time they see it. So getting to be in this space with so many people at, a sold out experience to play a song that they've never heard before, it's, you're like, how will this translate? Will they feel something when they hear it for the first time? Things can sometimes feel a little off kilter. Like we're still figuring out, how do we play this? How do we perform this? And the live show is just such an opportunity to understand what a song needs live to really kick off. So,
well, before we hear Loud Bark, could you tell us about the line in here, "I'm a waste of a woman, but I taste like success"?
Oh, yeah. I'm really proud of that line. I just feel as though women in particular, especially women of a certain age in their 30s who maybe are single and chasing different things in their life, there's this immense external pressure to tell you that you've done it wrong. And, I have not only just experienced that kind of on a societal level in the way that I, obviously an active participant in our society, but I'm also an observer of it as well. And I see the way that people are treated, and this is not at all just for women, but for anyone who's in their 30s who hasn't kind of found themselves already in the traditional roles that are expected of them, are often seen as maybe this like lie that like something's wrong with you or something, you didn't do something right, or you wasted your youth in some way, you wasted yourself. And it was something actually like someone who was really close to me, kind of like a member of my own family, not immediate, but a member of my family who made a very large insinuation that I was a waste of a woman, that I had wasted.
So someone actually said that to you?
Yeah. And I felt so hurt by it that I would be seen in their eyes as having wasted my life while I am still young and I have all these like beautiful collaborations and friendships and a very rich, alive life. And I was kind of thinking on the experience, and I was just like, well, if I'm a waste of a woman, I taste like success, because my life is wonderful and I don't feel ashamed of it at all.
I think that's a great way to finish this. Let's listen to Loud Bark. This is Mannequin Pussy, live for the World Cafe.
This is a song called Loud Bark. It's on a new record, and most likely everyone in this room has never heard it before. This is our first time ever playing it live. Not a single mother hours tried to lock her. Forget the collar on my neck if I want to speak. I'm a waste of
Loud Bark, performed live for the World Cafe by Mannequin Pussy. It's a song from their new album, I Got Heaven. I've been talking to Missy Dabice from Mannequin Pussy today. Missy, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much, Raina. This has been a wonderful. I've heard your voice on the radio for so long, and now here we are.
I feel like I've been listening to you for so long that I'm like, it's the excitement in this room right now. So thank you for being here.